Biden and Trump exchange fire in Iowa, ignoring others in the field. President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden ridiculed one another in the harshest terms they've used so far, significantly escalating a feud that loomed over not only their dueling visits to Iowa on Tuesday but the 2020 presidential contest more broadly. Biden questioned the president's intelligence and challenged his morals. By turns chiding, "The president is literally an existential threat to America," Biden said in Ottumwa, the first of several events in Iowa in which he delivered a multi-pronged indictment of Trump's policies, values, and character. Trump, who has repeatedly brushed aside the advice of aides who warn against elevating Biden by attacking him, responded with the plain-spoken vitriol that built his political brand. He pointed to Biden. "He's a different guy," Trump said as he left the White House for Iowa. "He looks different. Joe Biden is a dummy," Trump concluded. Unlike his rivals, Biden from the outset has focused his campaign on Trump's suitability for office, launching his effort in April with a video showing the white supremacist march in Charlottesville and Trump's response to it, which Biden portrayed as weak and even immoral. Tuesday was essentially a day when both Biden and Trump got the campaign they wanted. In the state that Biden's focus on Trump came after a difficult few days for his presidential run. His campaign at the same time, a poll in the Des Moines Register showed that Biden was leading the Democratic field in Iowa but that other candidates including Sr. Elizabeth Warren. Beyond that, several of the other candidates have begun attacking Biden more directly, after an initial stretch in which they'd been more cautious. Sr. The Trump-Biden show dominated most of the day on Tuesday, with Clash of the Titans news coverage and Biden receiving the kind of wall-to-wall cable television presence that other Democratic candidates have craved and rarely gotten. The three major the one-on-one exchange, though, carries risk for both men. Some Democrats. Trump, meanwhile, has arguably benefited from an opposition that's divided among 23 widely divergent candidates and a Democratic Party that could face a long, bitter slog to settle on a nominee. By quickly responding to Biden's volleys, Trump on the South Lawn of the White House called the former vice president a loser, dumb and mentally weak. "I'd rather run against, I think, Biden than anybody," Trump said. "I think he's the weak." Biden has said that he doesn't want to get in a mud wrestling match with Trump, but Tuesday's remarks made it clear he was prepared to get a little dirty. The devastating flooding that has damaged Iowa and other parts of the Midwest, Biden said, illustrated the impacts of Trump's skepticism of climate change. "It'd be funny if it wasn't so damaging." The president's attempt, Trump, he said, was not only destroying American alliances but also he was petty and unfocused while doing so. He found time to. Biden released his prepared remarks for a stop in Davenport, all 2,887 words of them at 6 a.m. Tuesday. Those remarks asserted, among other things, that Trump's escalation of tariffs between the United States and China has crushed farmers in Iowa. He thinks Trump disputed that he was hurting farmers, citing bailouts his administration has offered to farmers hurt by his trade war. "Nobody has treated the farmers better than Donald Trump," the president said, adding that he expects to win Iowa very easily next year. Biden also sought to address a comment he made recently about China that drew criticism from Trump. Last month, Biden said Tuesday he does consider the country a significant threat, adding in his prepared remarks that he is worried about China if we keep following Trump's path. In speaking to reporters in Mount Pleasant, Iowa, Biden took a defensive tone, downplaying the need for debate preparations. "This is going to be an appearance, less than a debate," the sentiments of voters wanting a fresh face vote for a new person then, and insisting that he was overshooting media expectations for his campaign. "You all said I was going to fail from the beginning. You said it." He also launched into an extended argument that while politics needs more civility, the overall system of government does not. "They said that we've got to have a new system." The same people, Trump has taken aim at some of the other Democratic presidential candidates, calling Warren Pocahontas because of her claims of Native American heritage, dismissing Buttigieg as Alfred E. Newman, the Gap-toothed Mad magazine mascot, and dubbing Sanders Crazy Bernie. But he signaled he views Biden as the most likely nominee, and especially after Tuesday seems to be directing most of his fire at the former vice president, who was part of an Obama administration that Trump often criticizes. After flying on Air Force One, with the televisions tuned to Biden's speech carried on Fox News, Trump appeared in western Iowa at an ethanol plant in Council Bluffs, where he interspersed more Biden criticisms and remarks on the economy, calling him sleepy. All day, both Trump and Biden seemed obsessed with how much the other was obsessed with him. He said my name, I guess he's really fascinated with me. I find it fast. Trump and Biden appeared on opposite ends of the state, making their convergence more symbolic than literal. It came 3 days. Biden skipped the event citing his daughter's birthday and his granddaughter's high school graduation and was criticized by some of his rivals, who have visited Iowa more often and have been attending candidate forums that Biden has avoided. As he arrived on Tuesday, Biden focused his attention on some of the areas that swung from Obama to Trump in 2016. His first event, among those in the crowd waiting for Biden in Ottumwa, was Patty Derfelinger, 61, from nearby Eldon, a historically Democratic town that went for Trump in 2016. It didn't bother her, she said, that Biden didn't show up for the candidate forum in Cedar Rapids or that he's had a lighter schedule than some of his Democratic opponents in the state. But Derfelinger said Biden needs to bring energy to the race, and he can only do so by campaigning more and bringing the fight to Trump. He's got to get people riled up, he's got to get people riled up like Trump did, Derfelinger said. We need the Democrat. David Weigel and Holly Bailey contributed to this report.
Raindrop, truck top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.